Recorded. All right, looks like I pressed the button, so we are live. Let me share this screen here so we can kind of go over some histology right here. All right, so everybody should see that. I want to get the chat up real quick in case somebody chats in. Okay, Lab 11. So guys, we're doing female and male reproductive systems today. And I just kind of glanced over the lab a little bit late last night, and it looks like we're going to be revisiting some anatomy with at least in the cartoon version as well as the sheep. In past semesters, you know, I'll probably send out a study guide detailing what we need to check out on the pig, not the sheep, excuse me, the pig. And we have histology slides that, you know, I think we can kind of discern what the arrows are looking at. I was a little concerned with the spermatotids and different developmental layers of the sperm in the scrotum, but we'll touch on that when we get there. So let's dig in. I doubt this will take very long tonight. I know we're finishing up endocrine next week, and then we're going to do exam 3 review probably next week. I probably, if you all have any questions on reproductive or endocrine, to bring them to next week, and then I'll probably put a study guide out as soon as I get the exam, and we will wrap up Bio 139 lab for spring 2021. So things are going to go fairly quickly. Recommend staying on top of the quizzes. The quizzes have been, I got the quizzes opened up late last night, and I think we have another deadline of Sunday on those. So it will cover male and female reproductive. I do recommend you all do the pre-lab assignment and try to find the answers to those, because those are likely going to be the answers on the quiz. What else? And then I think we have case studies for the endocrine section next week. And we can go over those. We'll go over those.
What do you mean as the pre-lab?
I believe there's some of these labs have pre-lab assignments that are helpful for students to go over for study purposes, and they can be found at the end of the lab manual.
Is that what I was talking to you about?
I'm assuming that's what you were asking about.
Yeah, because that was at the end of the endocrine system.
There's case studies too, I think, at the endocrine system also. I haven't looked at them yet, but in past semesters, we've had case studies that, you know, are helpful for students to go over. And, you know, those take time. We've done those before earlier this year, case studies, and they're helpful. I think students find them very helpful because you can process the information. Hold on, Raymond, I got you on the chat here. Will we be going over the quiz today? It's been helpful. Yeah, we can. It won't be something that gets thrown up for the masses to see, but sure, we can definitely, it'll be a fairly quick lab today because we're going to be going over some slides, and a lot of this is going to be flashcard material, in my opinion. And then after that, we can take a look at the quiz. I'm happy to do that. All right, so let's begin here. So we're starting off with the testes, right, in the male reproductive system. Now, guys, this is always kind of challenging, even from an instructor standpoint. Excuse me. What is the different developmental stages of the sperm? Okay, and we have these arrows now. This is what I was talking about just minutes ago, is that we have all these arrows and we really don't know what they're looking at, right? So number 5 is going to be your sperm, right? I think the way these go is that they will at the farther these sperm travel to the inside of the testes, which then the more mature they become. Okay, because then they get stored into the vas deferens. So this whole thing right here is considered a seminiferous tubule. Okay, and this is kind of where we will propagate or develop along sperm, right? Anywhere from spermatogonia to spermatocytes and then we get spermatids, and then we get the true sperm. So spermatogonia, those are almost like germ cells. Okay, these are like germ cells. What I mean by that, it's almost the what we consider to be stem cells. Okay, spermatogonia. Those are the very beginning of what sperm can turn into. And then spermatocytes is the next stage. They begin to, I believe, you take shape of the nucleus, and then you start to get the spermatid, which is the development of the tail, the flagella tail. And then sperm is when they're fully matured, which means the head on the sperm will harden up. It's called the acronomius head. I believe some of y'all may be able to correct me on that from lecture. And this is what you have to have somewhat of a stronger head for the sperm to penetrate the egg to fertilize the egg. So very interesting. These arrows, I'm not sure I quite agree with them, because I think it'd be hard to figure out what you're pointing at. You do have these little germ cells right here. If I want to zoom in right here, then this would be something of like a germ cell. Okay, these are the germ cells, otherwise known as spermatogonia. Okay, and then we kind of get a little bit more mature, a little bit more closer to the inside of the testy. And this is the beginning of whatever we call a spermatocyte. Now, what that is pointing to, I have no idea. You can't see any indication of what this cell would look like. And then number 4, we get a little bit closer to the middle, and we get a spermatid. You know, I guess the takeaway here is that the more developed, the more mature these cells become, the closer to the inside of the seminiferous tubule they become. So I will keep a lookout on that if anything like this pops up on the quiz or the exam, because I think students can argue it, and then they would reach a favorable outcome, and I can understand why. So now these are a little bit more distinguished, right? So we have here the female, right? Now, female reproductive cycle is pretty much cut into 2 phases. We have the luteal phase, the follicular phase, which is the first phase, and then we have the luteal phase after the release or ovulation of the egg. Now here we have the proliferative phase. The proliferative phase on the left is pretty much where we start to get a buildup of the endometrial wall, I believe. And then once estrogen and LH hormone will reach a peak, it's called the LH peak. We get the release of the egg from the follicle, and then now we've reached the luteal phase. Or I'm probably pronouncing it luteal phase, perhaps is probably the better term. Otherwise, here is known as the secretory phase. If I don't think about it, I can say it. So number 6, what we have over here, this is more the proliferative phase. Excuse me, it's the endometrium. It's the proliferative phase showing the endometrium, okay? It's not much of a buildup. Now you see this buildup over here, right? This is kind of where, when we go through a menstrual cycle, this is what kind of sloughs off, and we start over and rebuild this back. Eventually, this is where the egg or the zygote, once it becomes fertilized in the fallopian tube, ideally, then the zygote will travel down and it will embed itself in this endometrium, number 6, because this is where it's all become more dense, and this is ideal for this is kind of where the placenta will develop, and we get the gestation phases of pregnancy. Okay, now the myometrium, the smooth muscle, number 7. Don't quote me on this, but I believe this is what, when we undergo the menstrual phase, the menses, I believe, this is what the smooth muscle, when it begins to cramp or constrict or kind of begin to shake up and cause this sloughing off of the endometrium, okay, at least parts of it. So it's kind of interesting. You get the different decolorization between the myometrium, which is the smooth muscle, and then the endometrium, which is more the tissue. Okay, ovaries. So this is kind of interesting. This is we're looking at the follicular phase, right? This is kind of where we get a follicle that develops and develops and develops, and then once it becomes the mature follicle, I believe it has a name to it that's escaping my memory. But I'm going to call it the mature follicle. And so what we have right here is number 8 is what we have. We have the primordial follicle, okay? And then we develop a little bit more, it gets a little bit larger, and we get a primary follicle. And then number 10, I believe, is, yeah, this is where we get the antrum. The antrum, this is the secondary follicle, is where we get this fluid-like pack here at the bottom. And pretty much at this point, when we reach the secondary follicle, then, you know, you may or may not know that typically we only release 1 egg per cycle, right? So eventually, depending on what follicle will reach maturity quickest, kind of is what determines the secondary follicle. And then the graphene follicle, that's what I was thinking of, the graphenian follicle, that's how I'm going to pronounce that. That is the one that's been selected. Okay, now when we have twins, fraternal twins, sometimes we get 2 eggs that are released. And that's what happens when we have 2 eggs that are released, and 2 sperm can fertilize the 2 different eggs, and that's how we get fraternal twins. And identical is more like the splitting of 1 egg down the middle, and that's kind of why for identical twins have the same genetics. Okay, and then right here, number 11 is the true follicle that will become, the egg will be released from that. So MO is indicated here as the mature O site. And then what you have left over, this is the antrum here. Well, this is what the antrum looks like with the graphenian follicle. So it's kind of interesting. This is where this is the release of the egg, which ends the follicular phase and starts the luteal phase. Okay. Pig anatomy. All right. Always very interesting to go over pig anatomy. This is a male pig. All right. A male pig that we probably want to spend some time looking over. And there are always going to be a few pictures on the exams, it seems like, where we like to identify what is what here. I can't add anything that would help you all understand what's going on here. I know the epididymis, testes, and okay, it looks like they've literally did a cross section right down, and we have 2 things on each side. So and likely this will be the same picture that we see. When we find pig anatomy pictures, they're the same ones from the lab manual. So I think if you try to at least memorize or identify what you're really looking at, I think you'll be okay here. Okay, female version right here. Now this one is a little bit more detailed. We have the right and left ovary, and then the uterine horn, and this little arrow looking at the uterus as well, followed by the vagina, the vaginal canal. Okay, now we're going to kind of get back into cartoons, and this is kind of where I want to come back here and make sure. So it looks like we've labeled them, but we don't have the answers. So that means that's where I come in and I label these. I will see okay. I will get a picture out to you all on these by this evening, and you will have the answers to the human cartoon reproductive system. So don't worry about that. Okay, so let's start. Some of these I may even not be familiar with. This right here is the male. This is number 37 is going to be the bladder. Okay, it's going to be the bladder. Now, this may be something that goes. This may be showing the smooth muscle of the bladder. Okay, and then we have the scrotum, and we have the vas deferens here. This is smooth muscle. Okay, number 59 is the prostate. These are the large ones that probably I know off the top of my head. And then I think you kind of get into the ependymas here. I don't want to go any farther because I may have to tell you wrong. Right here is the rectum, the large intestine, moving into the rectum and anal region. But I will send out email. I will send out a picture of the answers to these so you can have exactly what they are. The bulbourethral gland and prosthetic urethra. I do remember those being on the exam last year. So do not overlook these, please. Okay, more cartoons that shows more of an updated cartoon. Same thing here. I have nothing to add. All right, moving into what looks like to be the female reproductive system, okay? Now, I'll probably be less familiar with this, to be honest with you. I believe you're going to have, this is the urinary bladder, and then we have the labium over here, major and minor is how I'm going to pronounce that. And I think that's all I really want to add here. I will get this out to you for sure. I just don't want to go into too many details because I don't think I quite remember some of these like I used to. Cervix and vagina. Okay, yeah. All righty. All right, moving down to, for some reason we included the glands in here, the thyroid gland, cervical thymus gland. And I think the reason why is because sometimes reproductive systems are controlled by FSH and LH, luteal hormone and follicle stimulating hormone, as well as gonadotropin hormone, which kind of helps propagate these from the hypothalamus. And we're kind of going to touch on that next week. So I think we're going to do a quick introduction here of just some of the endocrine glands with the thymus and the thyroid. Now pancreas, I'm not sure what plays into the role there with that. Yeah, Derek, I just got your chat. Yeah, I'm putting it up. I'm going to put it up. We had some people that missed, so this will go up. Okay, so this is the reproductive lab. Okay, so do we have any questions? Let me see. I think my speaker cut out again. In this, I'm going to end this section. I'm going to end the recording, and then we will talk about some other stuff. Okay, pretty straightforward.
Is there supposed to be a pre-lab for the male and female reproduction?
I'm sorry, I had to turn you up there. Can you repeat that for me?
Sorry, I said, is there supposed to be a pre-lab for the male and female reproductive system?
I don't think.
I can't find it.
I don't think there is. There's only certain pre-labs on certain labs. This one's so short, I highly doubt there's going to be a pre-lab on it. You'd probably get a pre-lab in the muscle section, maybe some of the cardiac and respiratories. We're going to have probably a pre-lab or at least case studies next week. And all the pre-labs are found at the end of the lab manual. If it's not at the end of the lab manual.
The only ones that I see here are the cardiac, respiratory system, and
right,
blood
we've
pressure.
already completed those.
Yeah, I was like, I thought there was one for the male and female reproductive system.
I don't think so. We're gonna be doing some case studies of the endocrine glands next week, and that'll probably be in place for the case or the pre-lab assignments. Okay, I'm gonna end this. I'm gonna end this recording, and we will do endocrine next week. So, you guys hold on one second.